Welcome. I'm Fred Davies with The Wholesome Life, and today I want to cover a topic that is extremely important, and that is our acid alkaline balance and how this one thing affects our health and wellness. So let's just jump right in, and hopefully this will be very valuable to you. Acid alkaline balance affects us in food, in relationships, in many areas. I'll cover a few of those areas, not all of them today, but I want you to understand the foundational principles of acid alkaline balance so that you can take total control of your acid alkaline balance. First, a really quick introduction of myself in case you haven't seen that before. I am a master herbalist, and that was my focus for many years, was using herbs and nutrition to improve the health of the body. I also have a Master of Science in Business Improvement, Systems Management, and I've tied those two together in how to help this body be the healthiest. So we combine nutritional and systems concepts to have full wellness. Yes, I've made it a lifetime study of nutrition and wellness, and I love to apply principles of nature into how our body works. And I'll mention a few of those as we go through this presentation. When you learn principles and you apply those principles to your life, then you get fully well. I don't have time to go into my whole story today, but I do want to tell you just enough of my own challenge with wellness, I guess you would say, so that you can know that I've been there, and now in my mid-60s, I'm enjoying full wellness, full health with life. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor. If you need medical advice, please see a doctor. And my invitation to you is take responsibility for your own health. First, a very brief story, an illness that wouldn't respond. I got terribly ill, and I know how to get well. That's the amazing thing. Yes, there'd been a ton of stress. I'd just gotten a divorce. I'd moved to an unfamiliar home, and I could not get well. I'd only been in the home for maybe a few weeks, and I got sick. And eating well, taking care of myself, still could not get well. Nothing worked. Somehow or another, I got this question in my mind, what if it's acidity? And using test strips, I checked. Sure enough, my body was very acid. Come to find out, this house had a reverse osmosis system under the sink. That reverse osmosis water, if you're not familiar with it, is a 5.5 roughly on the pH scale, which is quite acidic, and made it very hard for my body to restore to alkaline with all the rest of the challenges on it. I changed what I drank, and within just a short time, I was well again. That got me very interested in digging deeper into acid alkaline balance and why it is so critically important. And so over the next 6 months, I read 21 books on acid alkaline balance, and I'll try and summarize those principles in this presentation so that you can have at your understanding the principles of those books. I have summarized some of those principles in a separate slide presentation, which I will have linked on my website and also on YouTube, where you can look at some of the other principles that I won't have time to cover today. Let's continue here by recognizing that God designed us with 8 acid alkaline buffers. 8. Even the rest of our body has maybe 2 eyes or 2 ears, but he designed us with 8 acid alkaline buffers. If you can imagine needing that many backups for us as we go through mortality to keep us functional, alive, and doing well. Now, I won't try and explain what each one of these does. The process of how these works is better summarized in the book Sick and Tired on page 56 through 58. A quote from the website pH Miracle Living. The human organism is alkaline by design and acidic by function. Continuing, if we will maintain this alkaline design of our body through an alkaline lifestyle and diet, we can prevent all sickness and disease. I don't know if I agree with that all, but I do know it makes a huge difference. And I want to discuss for just a moment that alkaline by design, but acidic by function. We have to stay alkaline. As I'll show in a moment, our blood holds a very tight margin, 7.365, slightly alkaline, just slightly alkaline. And yet, when we're working, we create lactic acid. When we are doing anything, we create carbonic acid, uric acid, so many other acids that have to be cleaned out of the body through the cleansing systems, through our breathing, through the lymphatic system, through the urine and the skin, and so forth. So if we're alkaline by design, we have to maintain that alkalinity to stay healthy, but we create so many acids. How do we stay alkaline so that we can stay full energy? One other quote from Young and Young in Sick and Tired, page 21 says, a healthy or a disease strain is determined primarily by four things. Its acid alkaline balance, pH, we're talking about today, its electromagnetic charge, its positive or negative charge, its level of poisoning or toxicity, and that also affects acid alkaline balance, by the way, and its nutritional status, which also affects acid and alkaline balance. So if you remember your high school chemistry, I didn't. I have to admit, that was not something I remembered. But I appreciated the clarity in the books that showed between 7 and 14 is alkaline, and between 0 and 7 is acid. 7 is neutral. Our blood, as I mentioned, is 7.365. It has to stay that way for us to be able to deliver materials to the individual cells and for the body to clean out and work properly. Each cell, if we were to take these circles with the white area around them, the white representing the fluid around each cell in our body, and each circle representing our cells, look at that center cell. When that fluid is pH balanced, our individual cells can bring nutrients in and push toxins out. the doors and windows are open so it can freely exchange nutrients into the cell and push toxins out. The cell on the left shows a cell with acidic lymphatic fluid around it. And if the lymphatic fluid is too acid, then the cell's doors and windows are closed. It can't push toxins out and it can't bring nutrients in. That means that that cell is closed and not maintaining full health, because fluid bathes every cell in our body. I want to look at just a couple of the common drinks, and we'll spend a little bit more time on this in a moment, about how we get proper alkaline fluids into us. Did you know that in a can of soda, cola, any type, it has a pH of roughly 2.5. Interestingly, those highly advertised sports drinks also have a pH of about 2.5. The most common bottled water, and the water sold in grocery stores and health food stores, is usually reverse osmosis water with a pH of roughly 5. And that leaves us with a 5.0 or 5.5 water that is not healthy for us. Tap water is usually between 7 and 8.5, sometimes as low as 6. In the many, many taps that I've tested, I've never seen it that low. I've never seen it clear down to 6. I've usually seen it 7.2 to 8.5. Blood, remember, has to remain at 7.365. Fresh vegetable juices, fresh organic vegetable juices, are in the 9 range. Eating fresh salads, eating fresh organic vegetables and fruits maintains that higher alkalinity. I want to tell just one story here while we're showing the colas and the sports drinks. Not a story, a study. One study that I read said that just one 12-ounce can of soda poured into a fish tank, 10 gallons of water in that fish tank, changed the entire tank of water to a 4 pH. Now, if we remember our math, pH isn't a -1 scale. It's a logarithmic scale. So if we change from 7 to 6, it's 10 times more acid. To 5 is 100 times more acid. To 4 is 1,000 times more acid. To 3 is 10,000 times more acid. And to 2 is 100,000 times more acid. So one can of soda drops that fish tank that was at 7.2 or 3 clear down to a 4 on the pH scale. Well, let's take that can of soda and dump it into a human body, which is roughly 10 gallons of water. What does it do? Still the same effect. How do we stay alive? One can of soda in, the body releases calcium from the bones and the teeth and the nerve sheath and the cartilage into the bloodstream to maintain that 7.365. So you're asking, is that the cause of osteoporosis? It's at least one of the very profound causes of osteoporosis. Now a story. I had a coworker that was a friend, coworker. He started showing signs of his hands shaking, his concentration was going bad. And I said to him, that soda you're drinking is pulling calcium out of the body. And it really is starting to affect you. It's showing by your hand shaking. The last thing for the body to sacrifice is not the bones, it's the nerves. And once the nerves are beginning to be affected with severe shaking or memory issues or other nerve issues, it may be that the nerve sheath is being degraded by the calcium in the nerves being taken away. Well, unfortunately, the end of the story is not a happy one. He would not give up the soda. He left his wife, a widow, about 6 months later. And it was a very predictable challenge that he could have perhaps changed just by drinking water instead of soda. Why are those designed the way they are? Yeah, very addictive. Let's talk about water then. Personal question. Are you drinking water? And how much water are you drinking? About 3 liters or 3 quarts is right for most of us. What kind of water are you drinking? That's the better question. Is your water alkaline? Is your water acid? Is your water being processed significantly so it's not hydrating? Dr. Lawrence Wilson, a medical doctor, on his website, or in an article that he has on his website called The Wonders of Water, says, water is not only the most essential substance next to oxygen for human life, it is also complex, often containing hundreds of dissolved minerals and chemicals. It is indeed a marvelous substance. Water for drinking is a whole food. For this reason, we find that altering it usually damages it. Like refining food, like refining food does. The exceptions are just filtering the water through carbon, a carbon block, or a sand filter. Ozonation of water is also okay. You can read more on the website drlwilson.com, articles/water.htm. You'll also see on his website that he says very clearly reverse osmosis water and many other waters that are altered by processes by man are also hard on the body. What's the best kind of water to drink? Even tap water that's just ran through a carbon filter is usually better than many, many other waters. He's very specific on his website not to drink softened water, not to drink reverse osmosis water. As a medical doctor, the summary I read from him many years ago was that his 40 years of medical doctor showed that water was one of the most predictive things for an individual to be healthy or not, and that reverse osmosis water was the most consistent damaging thing that he saw from his clients, his patients that came over and over again. I'm going to talk about acid alkaline balance in the body just a little bit. Our saliva is alkaline. It shows here 6.8 to 7.2. I've seen it as high as 7.4, 5, or 6. And if our alkaline reserves are proper, it will be alkaline in the mouth. That's the importance of chewing the food, mixing the food as we eat it with that alkaline saliva. It begins the digestive process in an alkaline environment. And then if our acid alkaline reserves are proper, when we swallow it, it gets down in the gastric juices, which are very, very acid. spends time in that acid environment, being broke down the rest of the way, and then moves as it goes into the small intestine with pancreatic enzymes, bile, other things going in there that are really, really alkaline and changing it back to an alkaline process so that our little friendly bacteria have an alkaline environment to work in, and they can help finish breaking it down and provide it whole through the intestinal wall for our body to use through the bloodstream and into our cells. And then it moves out as acid, where in the large intestine gets cleaned up, any excess waters are pulled out, and it leaves as slightly acid. Some common symptoms of overacidity include allergies, fatigue, mood disorders, neurological imbalances, hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, hyperglycemia, high blood sugar, also known as diabetes. When someone catches everything going around, that may be an indication of the acid body. Some call this aging. Well, my experience is that when I wasn't getting enough nutrients and my body was over acid because I was eating acidic, I was not really well through my 20s, 30s, 40s. Now in my mid-60s, everything's functioning properly, and I feel well. I feel like a teenager, quite honestly, with plenty of energy. Yeah, I can't turn back the clock. I still look like I'm 60-something, but I feel well. I have full energy all day long, every day. And that is what I'd like for you, learning the principles, learning how the body functions, and being able to follow those body functions. Let's spend a few minutes on foods. Notice that on this chart for the next several slides, everything from the middle, yellow, orange, and red, are acidic, and everything from the blue, green, and dark green are alkaline. We're looking at breads. All of them show up as acidic, don't they? Some are slightly acidic, some are more acidic. We're looking at ketchups and mayonnaises and other condiments, all acidic. Dairies, pretty much all acidic with the exception of buttermilk, and that's fresh buttermilk, not manufactured with chemicals buttermilk. So just looking at the principle, dairies and breads are acidic. Beverages on this slide, beer, coffee, coffee substitutes, fruit juice, sweetened is strongly acidic. Fruit juice natural, because it's been processed and then stored in a body, is also acidic. All the liquors, the soda pops, black teas, all acidic. Herbal decoctions are alkaline. Some waters are alkaline. Some waters are also acidic. So just looking at the overall look of the drinks, drinking water and herbal teas that are specific to your need would be alkaline. Looking at this next slide, vegetables are largely alkaline. You can look through all of those, pause the video if you want to look through, but they're largely alkaline. And especially fresh vegetables are alkaline. After they've been harvested, they do start turning farther acidic until they go rotten, and you definitely know that they're not edible. More vegetables, again, very alkaline. Garlic and ginger, alkaline. Kale and kamut grass and so forth, all the lettuces, they're all alkaline. Onions and all the fresh vegetables in season, when vegetables are in season, they're all alkaline. More, still tons of alkaline. vegetables. So that is where our primary food is in the vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, and grains. So what principles work for eating alkaline? Foods that are in season, grown nearby, without chemicals or toxins. Do they need to be certified organic? Perhaps not. Growing it in your own yard is perhaps the very best way to ensure that those are alkaline. Focus on whole, wholesome food. Whole meaning it's complete. It's not being cut apart, packaged, put in a box forever. When I teach this class with a group looking at me, I ask them for examples of nutritional content before and after the processing. And I'm sure you know the difference with that one. One of our critical systems for maintaining alkalinity is our lymphatic system. As we mentioned, lymph is the intracellular fluid around each of our cells. Toxins that have come out of those cells are pushed up using exercise or movement in our body up through into the lymph nodes through the one-way valves. Each of those 700 plus lymph nodes filters it, clears out damaged cells, and moves it up and through. Exercise is that movement pump. Unlike our heart circulatory system where the heart is the movement pump, our movement, our exercise, our body movement is the movement pump. Many, many things affect acid alkaline balance. We've mentioned food, we've mentioned water, we've mentioned movement and exercise. Music and emotions and environment also affect that acid alkaline balance. They're absolutely part of the critical nature of affecting it and keeping us alkaline. And that music might be different for different people. But recognize that it does have an effect. Having the news on, having depressing things, having an environment around us that is negative affects our health and our acid alkaline balance. Each of those things we can take control over because that's our responsibility to take control. How to restore alkaline reserves. One of my favorite methods, and I've done this throughout the years, off and on as I've needed it, is to use apple cider vinegar and blackstrap molasses together. My recipe that works for a lot of people, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon of blackstrap molasses in a glass of warm water first thing in the morning. Increase with another glass of water so that you're fully hydrated. Make sure you're getting about 1 quart of water first thing in the morning. It gets the bowel moving, it gets the urine moving, it gets all of the toxins cleansing out. And for me, the morning routine of connecting with God first, getting plenty of water, exercising, the whole day is full of energy then. And then you got that energy to do what's important to you throughout the day. Posted on my website, linked to this video, I will have this 1-page, very quick reference of what foods are acid and alkaline. It's not a perfect list. It's one I compiled from a book or from a website that had acid alkaline. I had to type it up, made a few modifications. You'll notice that if it's got a line through it, like showing in corn oil or a few other things, it means that it can be a genetically modified oil, and don't use those unless you know for sure that it's organic. use this for the principle that applies to it. Don't get wrapped around individual things because these might not be perfect. One of the questions I get asked frequently is, wait a minute, lemons are acid when I taste it. Yes, some of these will show in the acid when we taste them or when it gets tested outside, but they have an alkalizing effect on the body. So lemon juice and water, for example, those kinds of things actually alkalize the body. Or like the apple cider vinegar and molasses, you've got the ability to have it alkalize the body because it's restoring the reserves for acid and alkaline. And so your stomach acid is then more acid and your body is more alkaline. The other thing that I will do is I will post or have available for you to download a log so that you can log what's acid and alkaline for you, and just checking by adding up the numbers. For example, if you add up your numbers of acidic things, a -1 for slightly acidic, a -2 for more acidic, a -3 for very acidic on a daily basis, and a +1, a +2, a +3 for alkaline things, then add up or total what your day's positive or negative is. And you'll begin to notice that it's easy to see whether you're primarily eating acid or alkaline. I would want to have a typical day with mostly alkaline, because each day, if we're eating mostly alkaline, then you got a very alkaline reserve day. You got the ability for your body to use those materials to maintain it, to have energy because you're not fighting to clean out the extra acids. I hope you have a wonderful time exploring for the next few weeks, eating more alkaline. You'll find on my website over time, as I get them posted, more in-depth videos on the lymphatic system and the other things that affect the other principles that we're talking about. Please feel free to drop me a note or to peruse around on thewholesomelife.info. Yes, that's thewholesomelife.info. And look at the resources there to see what you can learn from those materials and resources.